Welcome to Pop Chat. My name is Annette Tarpley. I'm the founder of the Passion of Poetry and the host for Pop Chat. And I'm pleased to have with me today Cijo Joseph Chennelil from India. Welcome. So great to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the welcome.
It's wonderful to have you. We have known each other probably 3 or 4 years at least now, I suppose.
Of course, yes, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. Um, so you are many things. You are a writer, you're a poet, you're an author, of course, and you do wonderful, marvelous reviews of others' works.
Of
You've done
course,
mine a few times, and I'm always delighted when you critique my work. It's a present, a gift almost that you give of yourself the time to do that. So I thank you for the many times you have done that for me. So you is that book that you have? Is that a recently published book?
definitely. I think it came out rather very recently only. I think I got a few copies of the book. I think it's all about the minus melodies, poetry of the presence. I think my perception about 53 poems of Molly Joseph, Dr. Molly Joseph, hailing from Kerala, from my own native state only. I think the point is that I think she also helped me in putting together things in the proper perspective. And I gave a kind of critical analysis to all the 53 poems of hers. I think it came out rather recently, very recently.
Very
The
good. Very
uh, the
good.
other the other one is the Master's Voice. I think this was a book that does have the critical analysis of 200 poems written by journals in Annette, a famous poet, one of the famous poets hailing from India. He's well known in the literary circles.
Very good. So is that written in English or is it?
I think both the books are in English, of
Okay,
course.
great, great. And where can one purchase those?
Actually, I think Kindle it is available, especially the Master's Voice. It is available on the Kindle, and the other one it is available on the Amazon.com.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Is it under your name? Because I went and looked under your name. I didn't see anything. So do you know how it's listed on Amazon?
Amazon, I think I would say send you the link. I have got the link.
Okay, great, great. So if somebody wants a book, they need to get a hold of you.
Yes, of
You
course.
can hook them up. Very good. So, how would you define poetry? You're a scholar, you're a teacher, you're a professor. You
I
teach
think
at a college.
definitely, definitely. I think so, no? Since I do have an academic background, when it comes to poetry and drama and essay, short story, and different when it's literature, I would define poetry as something that is very authentic, very original, as something that is um, highly evocative, elegant, eloquent, something that is born out of nature, something that is spontaneous, something that is genuine, something that comes out of the heart, something that is drawn from the ground realities of life, something uh, that must be termed as the heart and soul of literature. That's the way I see or that's the way I define poetry. Because I think William Wordsworth defined poetry as the spontaneous, the famous romantic poet from England. He defined poetry as the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings and thoughts recollected in tranquility. I think poetry is born out of that silence. Poetry is born out of the spiritual um, sensibility within you. Maybe poetry is born out of sensitivity, and I think poetry, which is kept apart from the society, is not poetry at all. I think poetry does have to have a abiding relationship with the society as a whole. That's what I believe. Because unless until poetry that is written apart from the society, it may not have much traction. It may not have much relevance. It may not have such. I think close connection with the ordinary people of the society.
Yeah. Are there some times where you think that things that are called poems or poetry kind of are not really in the category.
And
In
I do believe,
in other words, I don't know. I've went to some events where people read things, and I think, is it poetry? I don't know. So
actually, nowadays what is happening is that, earlier we had this kind of Petrarchan, sonnet, Shakespearean sonnet, Spenserian sonnet, and we had a different classical way of writing poetry, neoclassical way of writing poetry. So poetry was confined to certain styles, certain formats, certain frameworks, certain structures. But in the modern poetry or the postmodern poetry, it is all about the spontaneity. If you put a pen on paper, it's poetry. For example, when it comes to poetry, no grammar, no spelling, nothing of that sort. Because I have come across poems prescribed for university students without having a spelling or grammar. Because it's all about I think the message, how you convey that message. It's not all about the. It's all about the style nowadays. It's not the content. The content, it doesn't matter. What matters is the style. If you have a style of your own, I think this kind of conflict between the form and the content, that is something that is that is so much reflected within the field of literature today. The form and content. I think nowadays, I think people give more importance to the form, the style, rather than the content. For example, one of the.
it isn't as strictly defined as it once was, right?
Yes,
Poetry.
correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. It's much more. Um, I don't know. We've kind of liberalized poetry somewhat, which is probably good because I think that it allows people who have different ways of expressing
of
themselves
course. I
to.
think a poet, as I have already mentioned to you several times, poetry must represent all sorts of people, because literature is all about looking at life from different perspectives and angles. The same way literature must represent a lot of ideas, a lot of, even those ideas which are confined or which are marginalized, which are cast away from the society. Those ideas are to be represented within the domain of poetry. Then only poetry will become more representational. Poetry will become more forthcoming. It can accommodate the views coming from different quarters. And also, nowadays we have poets hailing from different professions, not academicians who are poets. I think, I do believe that, if somebody can derive a joy out of writing poetry, that poetry should be poetry should be considered as the best poetry, because you get a joy out of what you write. You get a satisfaction out of what you write, and that is what it is all about. It's not all about you write in a problematic language or in a bombastic style or anything of that sort. Rather, it is all about how do you enjoy it? Do you get an aesthetic sensibility out of it? Do you derive a happiness out of it? Then you go out with it, and nobody can deny that. Nobody can say that you are. Nobody can. I think put any sort of barrier on you if you. I think get into the field of poetry with that kind of attitude. Is that's what it is, and that's what is all about or that can be termed as the heart and soul of poetry. So I do believe that now for people hailing from different professions, they engage in writing poetry. I do believe they must be promoted, although they don't have they are although they don't have the academic background when it comes in relation to literature. But even then they are excellent in terms of expressing ideas in a language that can be termed as chaste, immaculate, very eloquent.
Yeah,
So they should be promoted,
yeah.
because we academicians, we think that we are the guardians of or guardian angels of poetry. Absolutely not, because these are people also. These are people who I think who write poetry born out of their experiences. and I think those poetic works have more relevance because those works are more in tune with the hard realities of life, more in a conjunction with or tandem or conformity with the hard realities of life. And I must tell you, those poetic works are more practical than theoretical. We academicians, we are more theoretical, but they are more practical. So when it comes to the rating of practice and theory, practice must be given much importance than the theory. That's what I believe.
Very,
Because theory is all about lip service. Practice is all about going down to the ground to help the people, to represent the people, to become the voice of the voiceless.
yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah, we definitely do give voice. That's for sure. One thing I forgot to do was to ask you to introduce yourself, to tell us about you, your background, what you do, kind of your
Actually, of course, I would do that. From the very young days onwards, I was cut out for this cut out for the field of literature. I completed my schooling from St. Mary's Boys School, a local school over here. Then I went on to do my PDC, my pre-degree, especially for my degree. I think I just did my course privately only. Then the Ahmada College, in which only I did my degrees. Then my MA in School of Letters, University, Mahalmad University College only. And then I went on to do my B.Ed, to enter the teaching field. Then I have been doing the professional teaching for the last 23 years. Nowadays, I am concentrating upon writing mainly because writing it gives it's my passion. It gives me a rare joy and happiness. So always, I needed to tell you, it gives me a lot of happiness and joy. It builds me up as a human being. I am a humanist, someone who tries to understand the problems of the people, and also someone who tries to find solutions to their problems, and someone who believes that this world is a global village. Uh, Although we have we have a lot of differences in this world. Basically, we are all the same. We are drawn from the same spirit, same Atman, same. I think the universal spirit.
very good,
And
very good. I have a little problem with my dogs. They're being unruly, so
it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
you
I can
might
understand.
hear occasional bark. I don't know. They aren't very good when I say stop.
I think no, no. Actually, I must tell you. I think when I come across yourself playing with your dog, I need to understand that. I mean, I need to tell you that. I think for me, um, showing importance to the fellow creatures other than human beings, that's more important than anything else. Because sometimes we are so insensitive that we do not take into account their feelings and sentiments.
Yeah,
That means we need to have an eco-friendly life. We must. I think they are our fellow creatures. That means they are our companions.
yeah,
Frankly speaking, they are our companions because they ever in the 65 million years ago, we were nothing in the evolutionary scheme of things, and they were our masters. We were only, especially servants, or we were simply snacks for them. But now look at that. Because of our manipulative intelligence, if I can put it that, we human beings, because we have used our manipulative intelligence, we have, I think, we have made them slaves. And I need to tell you, we need to give enough importance to the creatures around us, the dogs, the cats. I think they only make us realize what we are. Without them, we are not there.
yeah. Well, they certainly serve a purpose for helping us. They've kept me from being so lonely. That's for sure.
Correct, of course.
Yeah, when you live by yourself, you get a little lonely sometimes. So I gave you a little project that I give
That, of course,
of
definitely.
yep. And so I told you to come up with the title of a poem. We both write on it, and I'm
Correct.
going to give the stage to you. So I want you to tell them what title you chose, and then go ahead and present your piece.
Definitely, I will do that. I think, see, I chose a title known as a philosophical pathway, since I dwell upon philosophy in an extensive manner. And I will read out, especially that in a philosophical way about life in general. I think it may look, I mean, it may, I think when I just spell it out, it may sound a bit, I think, indigestible, but I think, if you just to go, if you delve deep into that, you will find out the inner meanings of this particular thing. What I have written down, I will just read it out. Dangling from the sky, an expectation so outstretched, with a full of hits and misses in its wake. The life here on earth is a revolving chair caught up in the whirlpool of incredible sound bites. The sweltering humanity stands guard to the crumbling of edifices, like an idiot digging his or her own grave. And that is what I have written down. Other than that, to attach it to that, I will say about certain mindsets from, I think, from cradle to the grave, hidden thoughts, processes, raring to go in this world of pretentious nature from beginning to the end. We live in our narrow, watertight compartments, like beings constrained by our own social and political do's and don'ts. This game of one-upmanship goes on unabated till everything ends in that ultimate reality of life, that is, in the grave, the final resting place. Thanks a lot.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Loved it, loved it. I knew you'd come up with something marvelous. So, you being the philosopher that you are, that is very impressive. Trying to find mine without totally losing. But is Yeah, I'm not so good at critiquing like you are. I give you a big long critique, but I think there's an art form to critiquing, and
Definitely, what the way you are, it's good.
I haven't formed that yet. So mine is called, like, of course, philosophical pathways. Also,
Yeah, correct.
with age and experience, and the magnitude of this journey we call life, we tend to be drawn into reflective analysis. Our mind harbors sage knowledge gained. As we obtain insight into the ebb and flow of life that lends to the building blocks of the philosophical pathways of our mind. As each decade passes, we become we become days closer to the finality of our existence. Perhaps not liking all the things that the aging body exhibits, one thing that is not dismissive is the reflective insight that comes from living life. Regrets and mistakes are part of the journey and are an integral part of gaining the knowledge and wisdom that is invaluable as we continue that journey. We have obtained the enlightenment that words hold value and power. Once spoken, unretrievable. They have the power to help and to heal, but when not carefully calculated and delivered, words can destroy. On our journey of life, we're able to and discern that entity that we all possess and desire, that holds the key to joy and happiness. Love, in all of its forms, is the key to sustain life. Deprived of its existence, the soul is not fed. It withers and dies, leaving a shell of a person whose demise was from starvation of affection. So, As life hurriedly goes by, take the time to reflect, to analyze, critique, and theorize on the knowledge and wisdom that you have gained along your journey. Optimize your philosophical pathways. Thank you.
I think it's fantastic. Okay, my full appreciation to you. I think you have nailed it. As you have, I think you have written it in the proper perspective. I think it's a kind of, I think philosophical musing from, I think from the birth to death. I think I think it is very reflective about your life as well. I think it is autobiographical in that sense, or biographical in that sense.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So, did you want to share someone's poetry and one of your critiques of it? Actually, I was trying to look. I'll have to try to find it. Let's try. I was trying to. I was going to try to look for one that you did on mine, but I'll wait and see on that. But would you like to highlight someone and then?
Definitely, I think the book is still it is with me. I think it's bit. I think it's a poem is titled as "Who Listens to Poets," and I have carried out a critical analysis of that. I will read it out that out as well. I think the first poem written by journalist Anand, the one of the famous poets hailing from India. The first I will read out the poem, and subsequent upon that I will read out the critical analysis I have done on that. O minstrel, who charged thee to sing verses for humanity, you are like a singing bird atop an electric pole, bursting in cries who knows in pain or joy. So many crows, so many birds, so many rivers, and winds across hemispheres sing their hearts out, most of them in praise of the Lord. You complain these kings, and their man listen thee not. You will burst your lungs, trying to shout, to pour your notes into clogged ears, who listen to the great philosophers of yore. Few were regarded, most tolerated. Pain is the lot of the poet, and you gain by thy balance, by blotting it out. You sing for yourself. Your song is your problem, not the world's. They ignore you as we all move on, leaving crows and nightingales to their music. Now, the critical analysis I have carried out on this particular poem. The poet was dismissed from the Republic by Plato. Even today, the society accepts him and his pronouncements with a pinch of salt. The poem titled Who Listens to Us Poets is a poem subtly linked to the general truth concerning the present day reality pertaining to the humane and empathetic pronouncements made by the poets and the minuscule responses to them by the people of the society as a whole. The poet should be the votaries of professing the concepts of humanity and humility. But today they are asked the very question that whether are they licensed to do such a thing. Yes, today even humanity is attached to a price tag. We poets are shouting from the housetops to the rest of the humanity not to stray away from the impending reality, but the existential crisis does keep the anthropocentric society in perpetual excesses. Yes, the world is an interlinked, interconnected, interdependent place altogether. The truth is that everything in this world is connected to everything else in this world. The universal brotherhood is an enduring reality which cannot be taken light of at any stretch of the imagination. This universe is kept intact in a subtle, in a stable trajectory by the transcendental reality. The worldly powers have their own priority elsewhere than the cherished ideals propping up this world. The act of searching for a needle in the haystack is resorted to by the poets to add solidity to the world, but the insensitive elements around are immersed in the illusions of this world, for sure, for their eternal damnation. The poets who speak naked truths to powers are put in a harrowing environment by these dictators of the severest kind. Whatever oppositions the poets do get from different manipulative quarters, they need to articulate nothing but the truth. The self critical attitude the poet should have is that today they should be the change that they seek in the world, or they should compose poems for their own enjoyment, not for having a sermonizing implication. O poets, these nasty hegemon of the world are beyond redemption, so leave them to their own devices, or leave them to their discretion. It's time.
Very good indeed. Thank you. You have doing
Welcome.
such great analysis of poetry. I was trying to look for one you did on mine
Yes, of course.
that,
I think I have done a critical analysis on a quite number of your poems.
yes, you have. I thought I saved them all. Hopefully I did. I have a little file where, um, but the thing is sometimes I write on my computer. Here, never stop dancing. So you did one on this poem I wrote.
Okay,
I actually wrote this when I was working in a nursing home,
okay, understood.
and I actually did this when I worked in a nursing home. Actually, instead of doing that, this might be difficult for you.
Okay, okay.
What if I read one and you do? Can you do an on the spot analysis?
I think if you read a poem and I will do the analysis, of course, on the spot. I'm quite
Okay,
capable of
well
doing.
that's impromptu. There was one I wrote um, that is one of my favorite. I think it just got published in some magazine. I think somewhere. I gotta figure out where which magazine and where it is. So I wrote this after I went to a nursing home and visited a man, and I said, "How long have you been here?" And he said, "7 years." I said, "How long since somebody's come to see you?" 7 years. How long since somebody's come called you? 7 years. So sometimes, they get forgotten. They get placed there and no one comes to visit.
Yes,
And
yes,
so I wrote that. That was the inspiration for this. It's called The Forgotten.
yes, yes.
I held her frail, wrinkled hand, veins prominent in a bony structure, wondering about the fruits of their labor. How many tears had they brushed from streaked faces? How many loaves of bread had they kneaded? How many pie crusts had they formed? How many times had they clasped together in prayerful supplication? How many diapers had they changed? How many times had they caressed the hands of another to comfort? Her once piercing blue eyes, now clouded by a film, gazing into mine with a blank stare. How many sunrises had they seen? How many silent words had they spoke? How much love had they conveyed? How many tears had they shed? How many questions had they implored? How many hearts had they broken? When was the last setting sun that they had seen? Her ears, now large, prominent, and drooping, having lost the sense to capture that for which they were created. What secrets have they heard? What promises whispered that were not kept? What music had they loved? Did they miss The sound of laughter? Do they yearn for the pitter pat of rain? When did they last hear an I love you? Were they lonely now in their silence? Her mouth, lips now dried and cracked, trying desperately to move to form words they couldn't speak, now touching my face with a weakened kiss. I mourn for the once vibrant woman now living alone in her shell, separated by a membrane of time, lost in a vault of sequestered memories. In a facility she was cared for by unknowing strangers. No visitors would enter the doors in the land of the forgotten. That's it. Mm.
I think I need to tell you, I think, it's a very touching, I think, a poem, as well as it is so heroic, especially for that woman. The point is that, in this world, when we are in the evening of our life, only we realize that, I think, when we are in the evening of our life, we realize that, I think, we understand, I think there's a philosophy behind the poem. When we are healthy, when we are dashing, when we are young, when we are vibrant, when we are alive and kicking, I think, we forget. I think, we forget about many people around us. If you look at the youths or the adolescents today, they don't even care about the old members of the society, the geriatric population,
Mm.
solely because they believe that they are the castaways. I think they don't. I think they should not be given any sort of care or anything of that sort. But without the sacrifices, without the toils, without the labors, without the sweats of those people, the world would have been a different place. If they, I think, if these old people, if they acted in a wayward manner, things would have gone terribly wrong. Look at this particular lady. I think who might have done her level best for her family, for her children, for her near and dear ones, for her friends, for her companions, for her lovers, for her, especially even for strangers. But now she is abandoned. She is left to die a lonely death. That is a terrible thing that can happen to anyone. And I think unless and until we respect the old people, I think, the world may get into a state of no return, because no, maybe because of their steadfastness, their honesty, their determination, their vigor, their vitality, their strength. I think that might have made this world a better place to live in. And this, I think the young people in the society, they have a responsibility to give back to them when they most need that. Because, if this lady would have had a very selfish attitude when it comes to her children or anything of that sort, or when her children were born, and if she had a kind of selfish attitude, if she was so self-centered, the children would have gone to the dogs. They would have been dashed to the ground. Their dreams would not have got into fruition. Now, I need to tell you, the poet highlights, I mean, especially the poem highlights the need to show um, our large heartedness, show our compassion, show our mercy to the old people. I must tell you, you don't have to show any sympathy to the old people. You empathize with them. That is very important. You don't have to, they don't need your sympathy. They need your empathy. And that is what we need to do. Because I have my own mother at home. She's almost around 73 or something like that. And I must tell you, I think, take care of. I mean, take take care. I mean, for example, I give my utmost care. I mean, I'm very careful while dealing with her. I take care of her exceptionally well because I do believe if she was not there in certain stages and certain phases of my life, I would not have become the type of man I am right now. It's not payback time right now. Rather, it is all about showing. I think the same love she wants extended to us, and she still extended to me.
Yeah.
And I need to tell you that kind of attitude. I think in India, I think we never send our old. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm talking about 95% of the cases. We never send old people to old age homes or anything of that sort. We take care of them within the confines of our homes, and we give them the we give them care and consideration that they go away in a very peaceful manner, and they are not inconvenienced, or if they are not they don't face. I mean, we ensure that they don't have any sort of problem at all,
Gotcha.
because
Now
that's
you
what it
say that, but I remember having a conversation with Dr. Chaminez about this same subject, and she said that because I mentioned that over in India they didn't do that to their elderly, and
is.
she
Correct.
said things are changing over there, that you're
Of
seeing
course,
a
that
lot
is correct.
more.
I think I cannot see. I cannot sweep the truth. I mean, or the untruths. So, for example, I cannot sweep such issues under the carpet. I need to
Right.
tell you now, it's changing. We so many old age homes are mushrooming here in Kerala also, in my own state. And I think when people get old, they are dumped there, and they are abandoned. Even
Yeah.
here in India, we have a place where widows are abandoned. Even old people are abandoned, and they will have to stretch up in front of others to meet their bare necessities in life. To have two square meals per day. I mean, so, India is also getting into that kind of. India is also getting into that kind of situation where old people are undermined. Make no mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it happens everywhere. So I'm going to ask you a question I ask everyone that comes on here, and that is, tomorrow you run across Aladdin's lamp and you're granted three wishes. You can wish for anything you want to wish for. What would
See,
your
I
three?
think in the point is that first wish I may put forth is that I want to lead a very straightforward life. Not an I want to lead a. I mean, for example, give me the grace to lead a very straightforward life, an unpretentious life. That is the first thing so the first wish I would like to get. The second one is uh, I wanted to remain happy as long as I live. Happy internal happiness. I'm not talking about the happiness that may be brought as a result of getting external goodies or anything of that sort. The third wish is that I wanted to have this kind of broad-based attitude towards life, accommodating everyone, showing a good nurtured attitude towards everyone. That's what this. I think I don't need any sort of material prosperity or anything of that sort. I want to remain happy internally. That will make me a better person, and uh, uh, that only will keep my humanity intact, humility intact.
Indeed. Good answers. Good answers. Um, so tomorrow, let's say this is hypothetical.
Yes,
Tomorrow
of
is your
course.
last day on earth, and you get a chance to write one more poem. What would you write about? What would the title of your poem be? What would it be about?
I think it will be all about nature only. I needed to tell you, all ideas in this world are taken out of nature, and I need to tell you, I will have to write a poem about Mother Earth, because in the next century it's all about the Mother Earth. I think we are driving Mother Earth such a situation that the Earth will become an Earth will become a place, or it will become an inhabitable place, a place we cannot live in because of the pollution, environmental degradation, or everything of that sort. So I want, I think, to give a full credit to Mother Earth for bearing us this much long.
Very good. I'm trying to wrap up a bag I have next to me of ribbons. My dog keeps taking my ribbons and totally mutilating them. So they're like wire ribbons. I'll show you.
Okay.
I do crafts, so it takes my ribbons and the dog and takes it all over the house, spreads it all over
I
the
can
house.
understand. I can understand. Yes, yes, of course.
What would you say the difference is? How would you define the difference between prose and poetry?
I think poetry is a bit more evocative. It's a bit more I think I think there is full of emotion within poetry, sentiment within poetry, feeling within poetry, a certain amount of sensitivity within poetry. But prose is not that kind of a thing. It is a bit more wooden, a bit more iron-hearted, a bit more intellectual, a bit more theoretical, a bit more elusive and evasive. And people may not be able to relate to that the way they relate to poetry, because look at music, songs. Those things catch up. They strike a chord with the people around the world. But prose work may not do so. I think because many prose works may not appeal to the sensitivities and sensibilities of the people. So I think that's the primary difference between poetry and prose.
Very good. I think to me, sometimes I think the definitions are somewhat obscure. I don't think that it's clearly defined sometimes.
Of
You
course,
know,
there is a hazy environment when it comes to the definitions related to poetry and prose.
yeah.
There is the line that separates poetry from prose is so blurred. We can't simply bring about that clear-cut definition regarding these two. I think two entities, or two literary entities, if I can put it that way.
What advice would you give to people who want to start writing, that maybe haven't had that talent before?
I think I
Um,
need to tell you, those people who would like to concentrate upon writings. I think they need to write in the way I think the way it comes to you, because they should not have a premeditated, predetermined attitude towards writing. They should write. I think thoughts must come from their brains to the tip of their pen as they start writing, and such kind of writing only will have genuinity and spontaneity. They should not think about writing about something, then they engage in this kind of filtering process, and then they start writing. I don't want that kind of writing. I want, I think, people to sit down and write, and when they sit down, thoughts must pass through their mind in a very spontaneous manner. And on account of that, if they write, I think their writing can catch fire, can spread like wildfire. Because that's why now we have viral videos. These are videos which are made in the spur of the moment, and they catch fire. They go into hyper pitch within no time. The same way, I think I think you need to write from the deeper end of your heart, something that comes from within. Sometimes you may be affected with the certain events and incidents, but even then, I think there must be a kind of genuine sense of belonging to what you write. Because if you write something, I mean, if you write about something which you don't have any experience, you may not be able to have that kind of resonance with the general population. And I must tell you, people still people out there, or the readers out there, they still love honesty and sincerity. And also, primarily, if you are a literary figure, you'll have to bring in you have to bring in two metrics of literature, that is imagination and language. If you are a truly literary person, imagination must run riot when you start writing, and you have to fly in the wings of imagination when it comes to writing. Then
Yeah.
only I think you can capture the attention of this world as a writer.
I mean, I do a lot of imaginative things. I do a lot of imagery. I do a lot of fiction. But there are many people who don't believe that that's poetry. They believe it needs to be something truthful that comes from the heart, that you're spilling your guts. It's all about you. Um, what do you
But I
think
must
about
tell you,
that?
there are different schools of thoughts. But I do believe, I think such kind of poetic works will have longevity, and such kind of poetic works will have much shell life. Such kind of poetry can have a kind of sustainability, and that's what you'll have to, I think, concentrate upon. I think people will say so many things. We don't have to listen to them, because uh, so many viral videos, when they go viral, I think people have negative and positive comments. But if you can relate to the people in one way or the other through your writing, and then I mean, if so, I think you have won over them like never before.
Yeah. Do you think that the ability to write is a gift or that it's learned?
I think I need to tell you, it's a gift to a large extent, because one fine day you cannot become a writer. I think it is something that is there, but you can hone your skill. That is up to you. But there must be a kind of prowess, a kind of ability, a kind of talent, a kind of potentiality ingrained within you. Then only you will be able to develop that. Once you develop that, sky is the limit. Anything is possible.
So do you have specific poets that you really admire through history? Is there any?
Actually, of course, I think I will name a few poets whom I am very fascinated about. I think William Shakespeare, especially his sonnets, his famous sonnets, The True Love. And then down the ages, we have got William Wordsworth. These are all romantic poets. William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, P.B. Shelley, John Keats, Nissim Esakir, an Indian poet, Jayanti Mahabharata, and especially Byron. I mean, these are all William Hazlitt. I think these are, I mean, the Kamala Surya, an Indian poet. I think these are poets who might have especially fascinated me one way or the other.
Yeah. Did you ever like Longfellow? I always like Longfellow.
Um,
You remember him at all? Maybe not.
Of course. Okay, yes, yes, of course. Definitely, I do like his poetic works. But
Yeah.
you may remember about Ted Hughes, Sylvia Plath,
Mhm.
and also don't forget about Robert Frost.
Yeah. You
Uh,
didn't.
the, the,
You didn't mention Edgar Allan
yeah,
Poe.
but especially don't forget about Robert Frost, especially his Mending Walls. Road Not Taken, very famous. Stopping by Woods on a snowy evening. Apple picking. I think maybe I do have a kind of rare attraction towards his uh, poems, especially Robert Frost. I think he is very simple, very straightforward. Someone who does not write poetry with a with a lot of phrases or idioms or anything of that sort. He is very straightforward in his writing. Look at all his poems. Those the themes of those poems were drawn from the lives of the ordinary people. Of course, I do like him and his poetry.
I always preach the beauty of simplicity, that you don't have to use big words, that you can just take simplistic words and manipulate them and choreograph them in
Correct,
such a
correct,
way that emotes people, you know. So I think that there's a lot to be said for that.
correct. I
But
think oftentimes what we need to do is that make it very simple, make it very relatable,
yeah,
make it very down to earth, make it very understandable and comprehensible. People will try to appreciate your works. You don't
yeah,
have to use sort of you don't have to use a lot of hard Englishes to convince the people, because if your idea is genuine, it will be lapped up. That's it.
indeed, indeed. Well, our time has come to an end about, and so I kind of want you in the end to maybe discuss what you think that we can do to promote poetry and to make it more of a more in the forefront of the literary world instead of kind of on the back burner that it's been for some time. Um,
Actually, yes, I can understand that. The point is that I think in order for poetry to have a wide spread and reach, I think what we needed to do is that we needed to promote that from the school levels. I think children they must be I think allowed. I mean they must be promoted as poets, because nowadays parents would like to send their children for engineering and doctorate. They don't want their children to be poets. And poet. I think being a poet is not a profession. I think unless until we promote poetry from the school level onwards, I think poetry will not. I think grow like anything. And I understand once you inculcate that spark for poetry in the minds of the children, when they are at the school level, poetry will catch fire.
yeah,
And also,
I say the same thing as you, that I think that they've taken it away from schools and they
correct.
don't really teach it. And so I agree with that. And the
I think I
thing,
must tell you, when you restrict the imagination of children, for example, when you take poetry away from the children at the school level, you take imagination from the children and you make them what? Broiled chickens. You make them, you engineer their mind. That's what we do.
yeah,
Unless and until we change that, I think these children will, I think, will grow up without imagination. If they grow up with imagination, for example, if they grow up without imagination, they will become social misfits and upstarts. And they will become part of an engineered society. They will lose their ability to think critically about life in general. They will become less thinking in their attitude, and they will start acting without thinking if they don't have proper imagination.
yeah, yeah, I agree
That's
with
very
that.
important.
I agree with that all. Well, I can't tell you what a pleasure it was to have you on today. And I know we tried to do this earlier and it didn't work, but It's always a pleasure to talk to you and to listen to your critiques. And you have a very amazing mind, and your ability to, think philosophically and in a critical sense is amazing to me. So I always have greatly admired you, and wish you much success in your books and life in general. And may you always have that happiness that you want.
Thank you so much for having invited me for to the show. I really appreciate your poetry, and you are a very good human being and a very good friend of mine. Someone who keeps you in thick, I mean, keeps you as a friend in thick and thin, and someone I think who, although poetry is not your profession, you have excelled in that field. That shows your determination, your courage, your conviction, and your ability to succeed in life. And definitely, I think in the future I want you to write poetry continuously. Not only you have tried your hands in poetry, but in lyrics and in stories and in essays. And I think I do believe that you will turn out to be a great literary figure, maybe in the future. Maybe
Yeah,
sometime it will all
I've
click.
written some short stories, that have been published.
Definitely, that's why I read it. That's why I mentioned that in a specific way. I think you have a great future because although your profession is an entirely different one, but you have tried to prove yourself in the field of literature, in the field of imagination, and definitely that will stand you in good stead. That will do your world of good, especially in the future. Make no mistake about it. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's
Thank
a
you
pleasure.
so much. Thank
It's
you.
a pleasure
Love
that
and blessings to all, and thank you for watching. Thank you so much again for
thank
being
you,
here
thank you,
today. It's been a blessing. Thank you, and take care, everyone. Bye bye.
thank you, thank you. Bye bye.